Viewer discretion is advised. The following content may contain material that some viewers find disturbing or offensive. While we strive to create content that is informative and engaging, the topics discussed today touch upon sensitive subjects. We believe in open discussion and exploring complex themes, but we also understand that certain content can be challenging for some individuals. Your well-being is our priority. If at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to click away. We encourage you to proceed with caution and take care of yourself. For those who choose to continue, thank you for joining us in this important conversation. We appreciate your viewership and encourage you to follow our channel for more thought-provoking content.
He stood tall when the storm was rising, never bowed to the crowd despising. With a steady hand and a fearless heart, he fought for the truth from the very beginning. When the voices tried to be silenced, he broke through the noise with defiance. A beacon burning strong and bright for freedom's cause, he gave his fight. Charlie Kirk, a man of honor, principled, he stood no longer silent. For the land he loves, he raised his hand. A true defender of this great land. Through the fire, through the pain, he carried freedom's flame. In the halls where the young were swayed, he spoke the truth unafraid. Against the tide, he made his stand for every voice across this land. When the shadows tried to proclaim the light, he stood unwavering through the night. A fighter bold, his message clear, that liberty must persevere. Charlie Kirk, a man of honor, principled, he stood no longer silent. For the land he loves, he raised his hand. A true defender of this great land. Through the fire, through the pain, he carried freedom's flame. In the halls where the young were swayed, he spoke the truth unafraid. Against the tide, he made his stand for every voice across this land. Through the fire, through the pain, he carried freedom's flame. Voices rise, but few remain to guard the truth against the chain of lies. And history will always say he lit the torch to guide the way. Charlie Kirk, a man of honor, principled, he stood no longer silent. For the land he loves, he raised his hand. A true defender of this great land. Through the fire, through the pain, he carried freedom's flame. A speech for truth, for liberty, he fought so all the world could see. Charlie Kirk, your name will stand, a voice of freedom through the land.
You want to know what I think about this little war in Iran? It's hilarious. You've got Trump and Netanyahu playing cowboys, dropping bombs like it's the 4th of July fireworks show. Oh no, the big bad mullahs might get a nuke, they cry. Meanwhile, they've got enough firepower to turn the whole desert into glass 10 times over. But here's the punchline, folks. It's all a joke. One big, bloody, expensive joke. Governments on every side. The suits in Washington, the ones in Tel Aviv, the ones in Tel Aviv, the ones in Tehran. They all preach order while they blow each other up for it. oil for power, for some ancient grudge nobody remembers. They tell you it's about stopping the bad guys, but they're all the bad guys. They create the chaos, then sell you the solution. You know what happens in war. Regular people, the ones just trying to eat, fuck, and watch TV, get turned into collateral damage. Kids with their faces burned off, mothers digging through rubble for pieces of their families, and the generals and politicians, they get richer, they get statues, they get re-elected on the bodies. Why so serious, Iran? Why so serious, America? One day you're waving flags and screaming death to the enemy. The next day you're wondering why your city's on fire and your money's worthless. That's the real joke. Society's just one big asylum where the inmates run the bombs. Me. I'd burn it all down and laugh while the clowns in charge pretend they didn't start the fire. Why aren't you laughing? Maniacal laughter fading.
The fertilizer pharma shock is a compounding crisis that links energy choke points directly to crop yields and medicine supplies in a chain reaction that Washington refuses to acknowledge. Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz has halted roughly 1/3 of global seaborne fertilizer trade and nearly half the world's urea, the critical nitrogen source for crop growth. The just-in-time global system built on cheap energy, fragile choke points, and the illusion of endless efficiency has been kicked hard. Stock what you reasonably can, demand real domestic resilience over globalist fantasies, and build tolerance for uncomfortable truths.
The fertilizer pharma shock is a compounding crisis that ties energy choke points directly to crop yields and medicine supplies in a chain reaction Washington refuses to acknowledge.
And just think about this. They have no navy. They have no military. They have no nothing. They're losing. They admit they're losing. They're begging to make a deal.
Iran's closure of the Strait of Hormuz has halted roughly 1/3 of global seaborne fertilizer trade and nearly half the world's urea, the critical nitrogen source for crop growth.
The U.S. is a net exporter of fertilizer, but we have big fertilizer problems in the United States because, remember, even if you're exporting it and the price has gone up. So if you're from Iowa, where I'm from, you're paying a lot more for fertilizer this planting season, assuming you didn't buy it ahead of time, which, by the way, most of the farmers didn't. They've been in a little bit of a tight squeeze. Often they buy inputs, seed and fertilizer, prior to a year in advance of planting. Well, this year they didn't. So they're buying it basically not forward, but buying it on the spot market.
Urea prices from the Middle East have surged from under $500 per metric ton to around $700 or higher, with overall fertilizer costs up more than 50% year over year. Spring wheat planting could hit the lowest levels since 1970.
Setting the table on farmers is they were in bad shape prior to the war financially. They were getting squeezed. So as a result, they didn't do what they often do, and that's buy their inputs forward, buy them a year in advance.
Oh, wow. So they did that. They did that even before the crisis we're facing right now.
Yes.
Russia has suspended ammonium nitrate exports, China has restricted key blends to protect domestic prices, and India faces gas shortages threatening its urea output. With 318 million people already in acute hunger, analysts warn another 45 million could slide into crisis if disruptions last beyond June. Layer on the pharmaceutical strike. Iranian missiles hit Israel's Niyat Hovav industrial zone, home to Teva Pharmaceutical, the world's largest generic drug maker, and Adama chemical facilities. Teva supplies affordable generics for cancer, heart, respiratory, and neurological treatments relied on by hospitals worldwide, especially in third world nations. Pre-existing shortages were already severe. Prices will rise, access will tighten, and chronic patients could face rationing or expensive switches in the months ahead. Iran's closure stranded Qatar's North Field output, 33% of global helium. That also left 200 cryogenic helium containers at risk of total boil-off within weeks. No helium means no chips for AI GPUs or data centers, while India's 70,000 MRI machines and semiconductor memory supplies face immediate pressure. Jet fuel has at least doubled in the U.S., with airlines warning of dry inventories, cancellations, and rerouting, while diesel tightness grips Australia and South Korea, prompting wartime economic measures.
Changju, what is the South Korean government doing to address all of these problems?
They've launched a full-scale emergency economic response involving the offices of the president, the prime minister, and more. They're also looking to pass a war supplementary budget, and they're urging the public to conserve energy.
The just-in-time global system that was built on cheap energy, fragile choke points, and the illusion of endless efficiency has had its table flipped over. Stock what you reasonably can, demand real domestic resilience over globalist fantasies, and build tolerance for uncomfortable truths that are imminent. John Bound reporting for InfoWars.
Breaking update. President Trump says Iran's president asked the U.S. for a ceasefire. Tehran says that's false and baseless. The U.S. stance tonight: no pause in strikes unless the Strait of Hormuz is open, free, and clear. Here's what that means. The Strait of Hormuz is the narrow oil superhighway between the Persian Gulf and the world. Close it, and energy prices go vertical. Iran's Revolutionary Guard declared the strait won't be open to enemies, called it a ridiculous spectacle. Translation: this standoff isn't softening yet. Markets felt it first. Brent crude surged over 60% in March. It's trading around $116 a barrel, still the fastest monthly jump since the 1980s. Not 2008's record, but huge. At home, average U.S. gas price blew past $4 a gallon, highest since 2022, up more than 30% since late February. Late February, the U.S. and Israel hit Iranian targets. Then Iran struck back. Big picture. The IEA calls this the largest oil supply disruption in history. Roughly 12 million barrels per day offline, bigger than multiple past crises combined. That's what happens when tankers choke at Hormuz, and when regional energy sites take hits. Timing matters. We're just over a month into the conflict that kicked off February 28th. One side claims a ceasefire request. The other denies it. The U.S. says it will consider any offer only after the strait is unblocked. Until then, operations continue. Watch the White House tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. The president is expected to promise an end to the war within 3 weeks, if demands are met, starting with reopening the strait. If that happens, oil could cool. If not, expect more volatility at the pump and on the charts. I'll track the address and break down what changes for shipping lanes, prices, timelines. Subscribe, and I'll see you after the speech with the fast facts and zero fluff.
I'm not going to sit here and play you a compilation of Trump because you already saw it, you already know it, and I'm not trying to dunk on Trump. It's just why I'm really concerned. Saying at least 14 times on video and dozens of times on Truth Social, but we found 14 times, and that's what the news says is 14 times. Just, he said to press conferences or during speeches that we've won the war and the war will be completely over within days. And then we saw the Secretary of Defense yesterday say, we've had regime change, that was our goal. And so this is going to be winding down quickly. Well, they said it wasn't about regime change, but it was about regime change. But it's illegal to preemptively strike a country for regime change, but they can't even control their messaging and keep it on the WMDs. So it's just wild. It's so insulting to everybody, and it destroys our credibility around the world, and nobody will deal with us in future negotiations, militarily or economically, if they can't trust what we say. And the thing was, America in the last 50 years has been historically very deceptive in negotiations, unless you're talking about Ronald Reagan. He was straightforward. He got a lot done because of that. Trump was always basically did what he said, so world leaders Might have disagreed with him, but he was able to get a lot of deals done because he did what he said he would do. And again, the old leftist media would constantly say Trump was lying about this, lying about that, and I'd go look at it, and it was almost never wrong. It was almost always true. So one reason I'm so upset right now about Trump is this is definitely a new Trump that is constantly changing his story and all over the map, not just on the war, but a bunch of other stuff. So that's why I'm concerned. And without even trying to look, I mean, the top of Yahoo and just all over the news and just everywhere, and my phone ringing off the hook. And you type my name into Google, stories everywhere. Jones turns on Trump. Jones says it's time to cut bait on Trump. It's over for Trump. And I did say that yesterday, but I quantified it. Maybe he'll wake back up and turn back. But if this continues, we just have to consider the fact that this is a new Trump and the old Trump is no longer with us. But I'm glad it got all that attention because we need a wake-up call to the president. Because all of his old supporters and the people that supported the old Trump have been demonized and attacked by his new surrogates that are a bunch of neocons and never Trumpers. I mean, Lindsay, Princess, Disney, Bubble Wand, pervert, Mark Levin, all the usual suspects, Ben Shapiro. These are the people he tells us to listen to and that he says speak for him. And you tune into them and they say America's got to be ready to die en masse to take down Iran. So no, I do not support that. And I'm horrified by it. So we have Trump in the last 31 days, about 3 days into it. He starts telling us, as you know, on record, that we've won the war, but won't say what the objective was. And that soon we'll be out of it. And then he continues to say that Iran is trying to surrender. It'll only take unconditional surrender. They want to cease fire, but they can never produce the proof of that. And Iran keeps saying, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. Well, Hegseth said we've had regime change yesterday. I guess mean they have the regime they want now. Trump came out and said it. And Iran's foreign ministry says that's not the case, and we're not working with you, and we're not even talking to you. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman calls Trump's remarks on Tehran, allegedly asking for ceasefire, false and baseless. And if you follow what's been happening in the last month and that precedent, then you have to believe the Iranians. I don't know what the truth is, because the Iranians lie too. It's a mess, though. The stock market was up on the news. Oil fell a little bit, though it's the biggest 30-day rise in its history overall. And if this peace deal doesn't materialize, or the ceasefire doesn't, then it will only spike more in a couple days. And how many times can Trump do this where he says we've got a deal, the war's over? But Iran is denying Trump's claim it requested ceasefire, calling it false and baseless. I don't know what the truth is. In the past, Trump was almost always truthful, so I would go with him. Can't do that now. Just like with Democrats, they lie so much, you can't believe a word they say. So I got a few clips here. I want to play a Trump. Here's Trump on Iran. Again, we have had regime change. Now regime change was not one of the things that was a goal, because he knows it's illegal to attack a country first for regime change. Has to be, quote, imminent threat under the law, our law, not even foreign law, international law. And so he adds a proviso. We finally got what we wanted, so now we're going to wind this down. He says in a few weeks. Says 2 or 3 weeks for the next clip. And what do you want to bet it's made up? I mean, if I had to guess, this is horse crap. I would love a ceasefire. I'd love the Iranians to back down and unblock the Strait of Hormuz. But they know every time they start negotiating, they get bombed again. They have nowhere to run. Their back's against the wall. And that's a dangerous adversary. So play clip 10 and 11.
They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. but we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them. They have no Navy. They have no military. They have no Air Force. They have no telecommunications. They have no anti-aircraft systems. They have no leaders. You know, their leaders are all gone. That's why we have regime change. We have nice new leaders. Peter, nothing to do with that. What happens in the Strait, we're not going to have anything to do with, because these countries, China will go up and they'll fuel up their beautiful ships and they'll leave and they'll take care of themselves. There's no reason for us to do it. We hit them hard. We got rid of a lot of the radicalized lunatics along the Strait. But if they want something, but I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities. We, as you probably read or wrote, we knocked out. Excuse me?
Pardon me for interrupting. The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I think
3
with
weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
we'll
3
leave,
weeks,
because there's no reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country, or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating.
I mean, how do you unpack those 2 minutes of clips? Those are just unbelievable. Israel starts it, drags us in. 30% of the world's fertilizer goes through there, 27% of the oil and gas. It's already caused a chain reaction in the markets, creating huge inflation. And Trump says, we want unconditional surrender and you must open the Strait or we will obliterate you forever. He said that again yesterday. And then the same day says, no, we're just going to leave the Strait and leave all of you to it, even though the U.S. and Israel did this. I mean, that is not moral, folks. That is not the old Trump. That is crazy. And it will continue to affect the world markets and us. Yeah, it's going to hurt Europe and China and everybody else and poor people that live at a subsistence level with food production going way down, with upwards of a third of the fertilizer not getting delivered during growing times at the start of the growing season. I mean, perfect timing for that to be just devastating. And so, oh, we've knocked out most of their leadership, so that's the regime change you wanted. No, regime change meant getting the people in you wanted. That's not mission accomplished. So this is Trump realizing he got set up by Israel. The Pentagon told him don't do it. Eric Prince told him don't do it. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs told him don't do it. We were right. This was terrible. And now he's going to declare victory in 2 to 3 weeks. I'm sure that'll change tomorrow. In fact, what do you want to bet we're still bombing in 3 weeks? I would love to be proven wrong. But if I had to make a dead reckoning guess right now, I think we're there, and I think we're still at war in 2 months. In 8 weeks. I mean, what do you think? What do you think? I just know that this makes my head spin to be watching all of this unfold. There's still a lot of good going on, but quickly Trump is moving away from his main mission. And on the current trajectory, I mean, he'll be Barack Obama in a few months if he continues this slide in policy, turning into a globalist Democrat. So we're pretty horrified around here. I don't know about you. But, I mean, do you expect me to get up here and say, oh, yeah, that's great. It's your fault, France. It's your fault, Germany. It's your fault, Saudi Arabia. It's your fault, third world countries that need the fertilizer, and Australia that already has fuel running out, and all over the world, the jet airlines are saying within a few weeks they'll have to cancel most flights because lack of jet fuel. And what do you think that, and Taiwan can't make chips because they can't get the liquid natural gas? That's going to hurt us bad. I mean, this is crazy. All because Netanyahu did what he wanted to do and drug us into this, and they lied to Trump and said the regime will fall in a few days and the opposition will overthrow them. Remember, Trump said that? That was the plan, and it didn't work. And remember what the founder and head of Blackwater said, a right-wing hawk. He said, I can't believe Trump did this. It's not going to go well. The Pentagon told him that. And he said, but just please don't escalate the boots on the ground because that'll be the next thing. And that's why we need a repudiation of boots on the ground because they have the talking point. They're pushing it everywhere. Fox, you name it. You do not want a ground war in Iran. And notice he's now backing away from that. And that's why we're going to put pressure. We get told by neocons and these influencers that are paid off by the establishment, by Israel and others, that being loyal to Trump and loyal to MAGA and being a good American means supporting whatever the neocons want and ground war with the Iranians and that nightmare. No, that's not what we voted for. And they want us to sit down and shut up or they'll attack you, they'll intimidate you, they'll call you a traitor like they did Joe Kent and a coward when they're the cowards. Israel says they won't help us in a ground war, but they want us in a ground war because they want you to shut up. Because they don't want Trump to get pushed back because they want him bubble wrapped where they control him. Ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Well, you know, I guess it's disturbing news in the Charlie Kirk case. I think I mentioned in my last video, I mentioned in this video, like they really can't tie the weapon to Charlie Kirk's assassins. I believe his name is Tyler Robertson. Some of the forensics of the bullet fragments, they can't tie it to the weapon supposedly used to shoot Charlie Kirk, that shot Charlie Kirk. Now, I guess the prosecution can try different routes, but, you know, the defense wants to use that as exculpatory evidence, which it could throw this case out. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not trying to pretend to be one or anything. I'm just saying, you know, it's not looking good on that case right there. And there's a lot of speculation that Israel was behind this, you know, which I am not making that speculation whatsoever because I haven't seen really hardcore proof of this. I wouldn't doubt it, but, you know, I'm not going to make that speculation at this point, let's put it that way. But, you know, I would say this, you know, Charlie Kirk was, if I understand, was about ready to go hardcore against a war in Iran. I guess he found some stuff, basically, and he was going to preach hardcore against the war in Iran. Well, the neocons couldn't have that. So, you know, and I guess Israel couldn't have that either because Bibi, Benjamin Netanyahu, wanted the war in Iran to happen real badly, which got us into a very big mess, you know. Oil's about $100 a gallon. I'm sorry, $100 a barrel, let's put it that way. So, yeah, it's not looking good, and supply chain issues getting back pretty bad. Like the Brown report says, you know, if a certain country can get the fertilizer stuff like that they need to grow their crops, that puts in a very bad situation. Not only that, you know, a lot of countries run out of jet fuel to fly their airplanes. Even worse situation. So, you know, things are looking pretty bad, say the least, you know. Real bad because of the Strait of Hormuz, basically. And, you know, I just found out that Iran wants to charge a toll to allow ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz at $2 million per ship. That would give Iran a surplus of $80 million a year, for I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's a huge revenue for Iran. They totally control the Strait of Hormuz, basically, right now. And, you know, Trump's making some insane threats, stuff like that. And, you know, making some insane statements on his Truth Social post saying that Iran called him up, the new president of Iran, says about ready to negotiate a new ceasefire. And Iran says, no, we didn't do that. So, you know, we got to choose who we're going to believe here. And Trump's all over the place. And they're just bragging about regime change war in Iran, stating that that was at the main mission, I guess you would say. And basically, I don't think Trump was really allowed to do a regime change war, basically. I know we did a regime change war in Iraq, but it's kind of a different situation where the war was approved by Congress for so-called weapons of mass destructions. Now, Trump claims that Iran could never have a nuclear bomb. Okay, is there any evidence that Iran has a nuclear bomb? And, you know, they want to send their scientists into Iran to get the petroleum, I guess, to get the petroleum. But how the hell they're going to find that, stuff like that. I think take more than just the Green Berets, go get it. And it will be a ground war in Iran. It could very well happen. I think Trump backed off on the ground war a little bit because everybody was telling him, it'd be a total disaster. It'd be a total disaster, and the Iranian government's pretty welcoming it right now. So we'll see where it'll lead us right here, but it'll lead us no good. I do realize Trump declared victory 9 times, but there's no victory I've seen. And they keep saying almost like mission accomplished, but they really accomplished nothing because we keep bombing them. We're still technically at war with them right now. We attacked Iran, saying they're a threat to the United States, but there's no evidence that Iran's a threat to the United States. So we got all this going on with Iran, and with the war in Iran. Yet we had the Charlie Kirk situation where the whole case might just be falling apart. And I must stitch a video where Alex Jones and 2 men were debating where this case is going with the Charlie Kirk assassination. And it could be that Charlie Kirk was assassinated due to this war in Iran, because they want people speaking out against the war in Iran. Because the conservative influence like Tucker Carlson, Kenneth Owens, and a few others that spoke out against this, and Joe Kent resigning because of the war in Iran, they're getting smeared big time, threatened to be deplatformed, everything else. They don't want conservative influencers or anybody speaking out against this war in Iran, almost like Vietnam 2.0, if not worse. Because this is a war basically like Vietnam, and they already got the draft reinstated and everything else. So how in the hell they're going to do this, and where's it going to take us? It will not take us on a good path. This will be a path of fucking total destruction where we're going right now. And we all should know that Russia and China has Iran's back. They're going to supply them everything else. So all we'll be doing is fight another proxy war, basically, with Russia, with a war in Iran. That's all we're going to do with all this right here, okay? But I'll stitch a few videos with these 3 gentlemen. We talk good points about Charlie Kirk and the war in Iran as well, okay? Please check out the videos. Peace. See you later. Peace out. Bye-bye.
Tonight, chaos erupts as Alex Jones welcomes Green Berets Gary Melton and Nate Kernacchia to debate shocking findings about Charlie Kirk's assassination. A photo of Charlie Kirk flashes on screen. Alex Jones introduces the controversy. The ATF's report claims the bullet does not match Tyler Robinson's rifle. Gary Melton, in studio, firmly questions the ATF's investigation methods, suggesting possible government manipulation of evidence. Nate Kernacchia, remote, argues procedural errors, demanding transparency and referencing his military experience with weapon forensics. Alex Jones interrupts, raising suspicions about the media blackout and hints of a broader cover-up surrounding the shooting. Viewers see crime scene graphics. Nate counters, suggesting Tyler Robinson's rushed arrest points toward a frame-up. Gary points out inconsistencies in the official timeline, calling out discrepancies in eyewitness statements and ballistic reports. Alex asks both guests about the implications. What does it mean for the future of MAGA and political discourse in America? Nate leans forward, warning that unresolved investigations erode public trust and invite international meddling, possibly from actors like Iran. Gary interjects, referencing past government failures and stressing vigilance to defend democracy for future generations. Alex segues to fast-developing protest footage outside the courthouse, asking viewers, will Americans demand the truth this time? Gary and Nate, still debating intensely, share differing theories about potential motives, from foreign interference to domestic political sabotage. A dramatic pause. Alex calls for whistleblowers to step forward, promising protection and exposure of the full truth on his platform. Close up on Gary, who openly wonders if more prominent MAGA figures might be targeted next as political violence escalates. Nate responds, urging calm but also calling on the public to lean on lawful pressure for a new, independent investigation into Kirk's death. Alex delivers a passionate final statement, declaring that only relentless questioning and public scrutiny can stop the lies and restore America.
Well, now I'll say it, because I always wait till the evidence is in. Israel's the prime suspect in killing Kirk. I first broke that cabinet meeting with Joe Kent, Tulsi Gabbard, the vice president, the president, and others, when they ordered a cover-up and screamed at Tulsi Gabbard, the president agreed not to investigate foreign involvement. And we said, obviously a 30-06 goes right to the neck at 150 yards. And if they can't match the bullet, there's a cover-up. And the media spun this everywhere that the defense claims it. No, the ATF says it's not a 30-06 bullet. So I am disgusted by this. I am horrified by this. And I'm going to try to shut up as much as I can with Nate Cronacchia, who was on with us yesterday, and Gary Melton has been on before, and I'll have them back up soon, maybe this weekend or it's Easter, or next week, a 2-hour show on this, because this is a big deal. Okay? We have a cover-up. We have a cover-up of foreign involvement. You got disinformation agents spewing all sorts of stuff about Egyptian planes and Fort Huachuca. And we now know, in my gut, it's never wrong to cover up the real evidence. Okay? But we know he wasn't shot with a 30-06. We knew when we saw it. But now, to the credit of the ATF, they say it's not a 30-06 bullet. What is it? What is it? So Gary Melton, Paramount Tactical, Green Beret, huge record. I'm not going to get into it all the combat tours. Nate Cronacchia, all his tours, all the rest of it, Valhalla, VFT, Paramount Tactical on X, all of it. We'll put that on screen. But I just want to, since we already had Nate on yesterday, I'm going to go to Gary Melton first, just to give us his analysis for about 5 minutes. Then I'm going to go to Nate Cronacchia to see if they agree with me and where we go from here, because this is revolutionary stuff. We have the Israelis openly saying the head of the ADL used pagers on Americans, the same tactics. We have open threats going on. I'm getting threatened. We have, again, I'm not on the Israel beat, folks, but this is a power vacuum. They're trying to come into it. They're trying to get us into a ground war. Trump's now indicating he's not going to do that. That's good. This is insane. So, Gary Melton, give us your analysis of this. Former Green Beret, and day one saying this is bullshit. Then we'll go to Nate Cronacchia with his take as this moves so quickly. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Alex. And Nate, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you said there that I definitely agree with you. And then there's some things that I'm going to push back on a little bit. And the first thing is, I think that this Daily Mail headline is one of the biggest pieces of, I don't know, it's just malfeasance on its own. So, basically what we have is we have a headline, and then we actually have what the article says, and then we have what the analysis actually states. And so what the Daily Mail headline says is that the bullet used to kill Charlie Kirk did not match the rifle allegedly used by the suspect. Then the first paragraph says, this may not match. And then we actually look at the ATF analysis, and what it says is actually it's inconclusive. The other part of this that nobody's talking about is we have a Fox News article right here. And this came out yesterday basically in response to the Daily Mail. And look, I think hopefully we agree, or to some extent, like the Daily Mail is a UK trash rag in my opinion. And I think they're reporting on this and the inaccuracies behind it. And the clickbait headline, I think, really covers that. But the Fox News article says the defense has been provided with an ATF summary report, which indicates the ATF was unable to identify the bullet recovered at the autopsy to the rifle allegedly. The other thing that it says right here is that's not being covered. The testing did positively confirm that the spent shell casing found at the scene matched the suspected murder weapon. So, that's kind of where that's at. And that's where we're at with this. So I don't think that nothing has changed, in my opinion. Me and Nate knew going all the way back to September, that we had a fragmented round. That was being reported. Candace Owens reported it 2 times, one on September 25th and another time in December, right after she talked to Erica Kirk. So, look, my take on this is we can talk about additional involvement, and I'm open to that. And that's one of the things that I have said at the beginning of this, that I do not think that Tyler Robinson acted alone. I do think that there's more people involved. And even looking at the social media posts that predicted this, I think there's more people involved, and it could absolutely have foreign ties into it. But what I'm not seeing is evidence that says that Tyler didn't do it. That's where I'm at with that.
Sure, well, here's where I'm at. The trannies say they're going to kill him, 10 of them 3 days before, 2 3 days before, 2 days before, 6 the day before. He's dead tomorrow. Obviously, I talked to TPUSA. They said no. Cash said, well, we can't convict them. They may have been involved. We're not doing it. We know he ordered the stand down. My point is, is that that's not a 30-06 and 100-something yards shooting in the neck. I mean, come on, people. And so that's what adds credibility. The ATF saying, inconclusive, doesn't look at the same bullet. I get what you're saying. The Daily Mail is probably basically an MI6 cutout. But let's get Kornakia's take on this. Nate Kornakia, what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think me and Gary really haven't been that far off from the very beginning. We did content the first week together. I think Gary will say himself, the idea of a 30-06 not creating an exit wound is extremely, extremely, extremely unlikely. We differ on some things, but let's debunk the idea that that this new report doesn't mean anything, just from a court of law standpoint, okay? Because what you're seeing people try to say is, oh, well, they can't conclusively match the round. That doesn't actually mean the round's not matched. Okay, well, we're talking about evidence in a court of law. And when you're talking about the word conclusive, it means something in a court of law. It means you have to conclusively match, let's say, a bullet to a gun, DNA to a rifle. Otherwise, that evidence is not going to be permissible in a court of law for the prosecution, so much so that the defense is already adding this in as exculpatory evidence. If you don't know what that means it's going to change the rifle from being evidence for the prosecution to use to find Tyler Robinson guilty to the rifle being used as evidence to prove he is not guilty.
Counter that or respond to that, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that it's going to be issued as and submitted as exculpatory evidence. It's still going to be challenged by, like, we have so much circumstantial evidence. We have DNA evidence on the firearm, DNA evidence on the spent cartridge. We have DNA evidence on the screwdriver. We got a lot of evidence. We have him admitting to it.
But what about a 30-06 not shooting through somebody's neck?
Yeah, look, what I've always said on this is that it's atypical. Can it absolutely happen? Yes, it can, especially once we get into some of the internal, external, and terminal ballistics of this. One of the things, what I will say is that we can't rule it out. And we have lots of examples of this, whether we're looking at, look, Martin Luther King was shot with a 30-06 at 65 yards. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy around Martin Luther King, but what I've never seen challenged was whether or not it was a 30-06. So he was shot at 65 yards, it hit him in the jaw, and actually hit his spine and then deflected downward. We also have somebody that both Nate and I know, Chuck Ritter, he was shot with 7.62 by 54 at 25 yards. It actually hit him in the spine, deflected downward. Not only did it not exit, he didn't die, and he stayed in the fight. So, the fact is there's lots of different variables. And one of the posts that I put up on X and just pinned it, because I don't think we can exclude 30-06 completely. And the other thing that I've done since this, my stance on this has evolved, because one of the things that I do, look, we teach long range for a living. We have our own line of long range guns, been doing this for over 20 years. One of the things that ballistic experts don't do is that we don't spend a lot of time looking at terminal ballistic reports. We don't look at some of these different pathology reports, definitely specific to 30-06. Once you start going down that road, you see that this is less atypical than people think. And then here's just some ballistic facts that I want to share with, and everybody can go check this out. I got this tweet pinned on my X account. 30-06 ballistic facts. You cannot determine or predict any terminal ballistic outcome without knowing the following variables: ammunition source, factory or hand loads; ammunition type, low recoil, varmint, big game, or dozens of other commercial options; ammunition condition, old, new, exposed to elements or moisture; projectile weight. 30-06 is available from 55 grain to 200.
Sure, give me subsonic, any of that. And Nate Kornakia cut off, so I'm going to come back to you on that.
Sorry.
Just real quick, here's my bottom line. I'm going to go to Nate Kornakia. I broke it. It's confirmed now. They ordered no looking at accomplices, domestic or foreign. Now you got the ATF saying this is an inconclusive thing. Okay, 9 times out of 100 times out of 99 times out of 10, it goes through the neck. All I'm saying is this smells to hell. Go ahead, Nate. Respond to what you just heard.
Sorry, my computer crashed a couple times, guys. Not
it's okay. Go ahead.
Anyway, let me go back to what I was saying about the conclusive evidence and why this is a big deal. It is a big deal in a court of law because now, as I don't know where I got cut off, but if you cannot conclusively match the rifle to the gun or DNA to whatever evidence, it's no longer going to be permissible evidence for the prosecution in the court of law. And we're already seeing that with the defense that wants to now change it to exculpatory evidence, which will actually make the rifle being used as evidence to exonerate Tyler Kirk. Now, if they can actually do that, they may get the trial thrown out beforehand. We don't know about that for sure. But also, the reason why this is so important is not just that, but it's also people are completely forgetting that the murder weapon was not found at the scene of the crime. The murder weapon has to be tracked back to Tyler Robinson. It was found 300-400 meters away on someone else's private property, which means you have to be able to tie that rifle back to the actual shot. You can do that through two ways. You can do it through ballistically matching the round to the rifle used, or the DNA on the rifle matching to Tyler Robinson. Okay, well, there is DNA of Tyler Robinson on the rifle. What's the other problem? There's 6 other people's fingerprints and DNA on that rifle, which is going to make that also not conclusive, because how do you prove Tyler was one of the 7 people here whose fingerprints actually took the shot on that rifle? Can you prove that? Maybe you can prove that through, I don't know, video evidence, maybe that we haven't seen yet. But at the moment, the way it's looking is that the rifle could be completely thrown out as evidence in this trial completely. Because if you can't attach, again, the word conclusive means something in a court of law. Very specific. Evidence is not working. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it matches. Maybe it doesn't. No, that's not how it works. You don't get to use that as permissible evidence against Tyler Robinson in that case. So
what is your interpretation of the ATF report? What is your interpretation of the ATF report versus Gary Melton's?
Well, I didn't get to hear what Gary said about it, but what I think is what they're saying is that there's fragmentation of the round, which I think me and Gary had talked about months and months ago. Sorry, Gary, I didn't get to see your what you were talking about. There's fragmentation of the round inside Charlie's neck, which I think we all thought, and that cannot be matched to the 30-06. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's not a 30-06 bullet. It means we can't match that fragment to that gun, which, again, in the court of law, that is going to be a big deal. But my thing is this. Now we just have a fragment, but we also had TPUSA's story, Andrew Colvett, who came out and said himself, told Stephen Gardner, who was on my channel, Officer Tatum, all these people, that what happened? Charlie Kirk was shot in the T1. That bullet traveled down his neck about 6 inches, and the entire bullet lodged in his, shot in the T1, shot in the C1, traveled down and lodged in the T1 just below his, or just above his shoulder blade area. And so is there not a full round inside his body?
Well, I want to say this. 1 hour after I said, 1 hour after that came out, I reported on that, and then I had Colvett call me and say, no, I talked to the coroner. It actually went down the spine, all this stuff. I said, okay, good, I'll put that out. I'm not saying, I don't think they're involved. I'm not accusing them of anything. But I mean, that's exactly where we are, is that the story just kept changing.
So let me finish my point here, Alex. My point with this is, okay, if we're going with what the ATF says as truth, which I guess we will, we have to at the moment, and there was just a small fragment that they could pick out of that 30-06 round that they couldn't match to that bullet. So you're telling me that a 30-06 round went in, hit the soft tissue of Charlie's neck, and evaporated into basically dust, like a frangible round would. We'll talk more about that in a second. And just a tiny little fragment is all that's left, also creating no exit wound from a 30-06 from 140 meters. I mean, I know Gary will even have to admit that that's very, very, very unlikely to happen. And even with frangible rounds, I did see you mention frangible rounds, accelerator rounds, varmint rounds. We've tested them all ballistically. Between me, Dan from Heavy Duty Country, Jesse on Fire, we've tested 30-06 frangible rounds. We've tested low-grain varmint rounds. We've tested every round that can come out of the 30-06. Every single one, including the frangible, including the varmint rounds, blows straight through things way stronger than a human neck. So what I would encourage, and I'm still waiting for this, we've done our due diligence on this. We've done the ballistic testings on every type of 30-06 round that exists. We can't get a single one to not blow through straight anything way stronger than a human neck. So I would like to see someone come out and recreate the FBI narrative shot. Show me a 30-06, shoot it from 140 meters, and show me no exit wound in a ballistic dummy, and have that round lodged.
Well, let me ask this question and have Gary Melton respond, because we're trying to figure out the truth here. I think you both have credibility. What I'm asking here is about the ATF report. What is Nate Kornacki saying that ATF report says versus what Gary Melton is saying? Because Gary, you're kind of saying they're saying it's inconclusive.
Yeah, look, they're going to throw out that element of the testing. That's what they're going to use as exculpatory evidence. They can't just throw out the rifle. They can't say, hey, we can't use this. That's not how the court of law works. They're still going to be able to submit the fact that, hey, you know what? The brass actually did match exactly to the rifle itself. They're going to have the DNA on the gun, on this spent cartridge, which I think is really important with this. And then, of course, you have, look, the strongest element of this is the parents and their testimony and what they have stated in the charging documents. And then we already know that the prosecutor is going to be calling both parents up to the stand and Lance Twiggs himself. So we know they're actually testifying for the prosecution. And if they get up there, and I know this has been alleged, like, oh, this is all Fed slop. And I do think it's a little odd that people want to say, oh, this is all made up evidence and it's Fed slop. But when you have the exact same federal agencies or the exact same departments come out and give exculpatory evidence, now we believe it. But at the end of the day, like, the parents are going to get up there and they're not going to be called to the stand if they're not going to confirm every single thing.
Sure, but let me just add this right now. You have Jolly and West with Jack Ruby killing the patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald. You have him with Sirhan. You have him with McVeigh, all of it. You look at Tyler Robinson. Let's put him up in court. He looks like a mind-controlled zombie. So just because you got somebody saying they did it, they can get me with electroshock therapy for a month and I'll say I'm the Easter Bunny. So my point is, when we have the FBI confirmed ordering, don't look at foreign involvement or accomplices, then you add the ATF saying inconclusive. To me, this is major red flags. Do you agree, Gary, there's major red flags here?
Yeah, if that's exactly what happened, then there is red flags. And that's one of the things that I've said from the very beginning of this. Going back to all the trans shootings that we've seen, we have a hugely disproportionate amount of trans shooters that are doing, school shootings, mass shootings, compared to what's going on.
No,
there.
I agree. There's definitely a trans terrorist issue.
And so one of the things that I tracked down, I actually interviewed Chase Hughes, and that was what I asked him about. I said, Chase, look, we have something going on here that doesn't make sense, from a mind control, from a, being able to target people online, psychologically profile people online, and then realize what's going on. Is there something that makes trans people or people like Tyler Robinson, that has clearly identified himself as some sort of trans hero or protector, that would identify them as, a lot more suggestible? And he said, absolutely. He's like, the moment that you're...
Yeah, there's no doubt they're a mind control cult. Let's get into that. Let's go to break when there's fair time here. Nate Kornakia, counter that with 2 minutes before we get a break.
Well, I'm not going to counter that. That's
I want to say counter your response to that.
Yeah, that's one of the things me and Gary have agreed on since day one. We both believe there's some type of external involvement. We both believe Tyler Robinson. I believe Lance Twiggs also is involved. I've said that from day one. I just do not believe the 30-06 narrative. I just refuse to do it because, one, through, just statistical probabilities of this being reality, just basic, rationale tells me that doesn't make sense. It's way too bizarre. The odds of it are so low. And then now when we add in things like, okay, well, ballistically, we can't conclusively match the round to the rifle, it makes me even more skeptical. Because again, it's already so unlikely that this is the rifle used, and that's the wound that we saw. And so for me, I've never really been able to point my finger and say, who's responsible for this? Is it a trans shooter? Is it our greatest ally? Is it the federal government, the FBI? I don't know. Is it China? Is it Russia? Is it Iran? I don't know, but I 100% believe there was high-level professional involvement that either facilitated some MK Ultra style thing with Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs to get them involved, or high-level professional that maybe is a second shooter. I don't know, but I do believe Tyler Robinson, and people can kind of get upset about that, but I believe Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs both were involved. I just don't believe the FBI narrative for how it was carried out. And I've had that stance since day one.
All right, let's come back then and talk about where this goes now, because you have the former head of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, saying he's ready to testify that there was a cover-up. How does that affect us, and where does this go? Because I'll tell you, I don't know Israel did it. I just, you see all this lining up. That's why I'm saying we have to look at that. And I was a guy day one saying, don't say that without evidence. We'll be right back. Stay with us, ladies and gentlemen. Let me do this. The folks at Bigley, about 7-8 months ago, came out with this top-of-the-line Faraday cage. backpack with all these special pockets, super high quality. I'd previously bought a bag for myself personally like this, similar brand, for $500. The problem was they only got 500 of these. Well, guess what? They got a couple thousand of them finally in. It took 7-8 months. It's a $600 value, just the bag, for $249. But guess what comes in it? America First Faraday bag, America First tactical trench knife. It's badass. America First t-shirt, MK Ultra Atomic Defense supplements, Shillergy gummies, Shillergy capsules, Irish sea moss capsules, Warcry premium product, and more. And VIP members get it for $199. Also, as you can now read in the newspapers, the Texas receiver is saying he's not going to pay the rent or the bills. So you ask, when are we going to be shut down? Tomorrow? 2 weeks from now? I'm going to just wait till the lights turn off, okay? You'll probably see InfoWars go down the site. You see streaming shut down. Once we can't do it, we have the All Shows Network built at Big Leon's, and I'm going to go over and do it there. But I'm going to ride this horse till it dies. I'm going to ride this race car till the engine blows or the wheels come off, or I crash into the embankment. I ain't giving up. I'm riding this horse till I win or I lose. And then the media's like, oh, he's finally going to lose. Oh, yeah, right. I am the InfoWar. Our listeners are the InfoWar. And we got a whole line. Here's the first one of a limited edition Veterans of the InfoWar t-shirts. Look at this. This is badass. And it's the troops on Iwo Jima raising the American flag with the InfoWars patch where the stars are. InfoWars lives forever. It is an amazing limited edition shirt. Look at that bad boy. And it funds this operation, but also the Alex Jones Network to keep us on the air. We need funds. We want to get more reporters back and expand, but we need your support. TheAlexJonesStore.com. So we have to look at what happened to Charlie Kirk back in September last year in the context 7 months ago, or whatever it is, of what's happening now. And we have Joe Kent, which already had other sources, not him, about that meeting saying don't look at foreign involvement or domestic leads. And I talked to TPUSA high level. They said, yeah, we talked to, I don't think they're involved at that level because they were very open with me. They're like, yeah, we Patel's like, oh, well, they might have been involved. We can't prove it, so we're not going to prosecute them. So we already have it confirmed. They're saying don't look at other people. Then you have the ATF saying it's non-conclusive. That's a very corrupt agency. I'm surprised they didn't cover it up. Who knows what's going on now? Then I want to ask both of our guests, just in general, about the war, Iran, all the mixed signals that are going on, what the military community is telling them. It's crazy. Let's go back to Nate Kornakia of Valhalla VFT before we go back to Gary Melton of Paramount Tactical, and just putting bookends on, take as long as you need, on Kirk, where this should go, what you think, and what you think of Joe Kent saying he'll testify, and they're saying, oh, he's a traitor, he's going to let the guilty guy go. I think it's reasonable if he's in a meeting and they order us to cover up connections. I think Tyler Robinson thinks he was involved. But I mean, I'm saying trannies are a real threat and they're supporters. I mean, I don't know what happened here, but at the end of the day, where do you think all this is going? There's a lot of questions there, obviously, but just in general, Joe Kent coming out saying, no, there was a cover up here.
Well, I mean, I'll say up front, Joe Kent is extremely, extremely respected in our community. His resume is insane. For me, I'm going to trust if he comes out and said that's what happened. And again, it was a huge story back when it happened. And it's not just Joe Kent, the National Counterterrorism Center. We also had Mike Glover, another fellow Green Beret, come out and say one of his high up sources and friends in the CIA also told him the CIA was also blocked from investigating foreign involvement into this. At the same time, Joe Kent, Tulsi Gabbard, and the National Counterterrorism Center is. So the first thing that needs to happen is Kash Patel needs to be drugged and subpoenaed and questioned for why this happened. If this is true, which I'm going to assume it is because people that I respect and trust have, from different sources, has said this is true and happened, we need answers on that. Why would the FBI have shut down other intelligence apparatuses from wanting to look into foreign involvement? It seems like that's what you would want to know. Whether it doesn't matter what country it was, China, Russia, Israel, Iran, I don't care. I'd want us to know if there was some foreign involvement in the assassination of an American citizen on our soil, right? We would want to know that. So first thing that's got to happen, Kash Patel needs to be drugged in, subpoenaed, and questioned for why that took place. Why that took place? I don't know. It could be something as, as simple as Kash Patel wanted all the credit for himself. It could be something as nefarious as a full FBI cover-up on this. I don't know. It's all conjecture on my part at this point. But as for Joe Kent being willing to testify, yeah, if he's willing to testify that that he believes that, then I think that's a credible source. And also another thing I think is interesting, and this is not, I'm not still willing to say who did it, right? I've never thought it was TPUSA personally. I did an entire episode, 30-minute episode on the security team and broke down why I don't think they were involved. I think they're just incompetent. But I do believe there was a foreign involvement. And what really, really is making me suspicious right now is the fact that it's the new war in Iran. And then we look back at Charlie's actual ideology on war with Iran, and she was incredibly anti-war in Iran. I've shown 15 different clips of that, so much so that he went in and tried to get Donald Trump to stop the first 12-day war. Joe Kent even confirmed that in the Oval Office together. It's very, very suspicious to me that Charlie was killed and everyone else who has vocally gone and to Trump to try to get him to stop the wars in Iran. Tucker Carlson was immediately smeared. They try to run him as a foreign agent through Iran. Joe Kent comes out in resistance to this, immediately smear campaign. So I'm starting to wonder why every single person who has a big voice that comes out against the war in Iran is sort of trying to be, censored, deplatformed, or, disappearing completely. I think it's getting very, very suspicious to me because obviously this war is super, super unpopular with the American people. And honestly, with Charlie Kirk, you can't deny Charlie Kirk. If Charlie Kirk was vocally against this war right now, it would be a massive, massive problem.
He called me a couple times, but once, keep pressure on Epstein, good job. Keep pressure on Iran, we got to stop this, which he was right. And now Joe Kent said he told him that in the Oval Office. And then Mark Levin says he's a liar. Bongino says he's a liar with no proof. They were there. I told people they were at the meetings. So what is your response, Gary Melton, overall? What do you think is happening here?
Yeah, look, I'm completely open to the idea that there's foreign influence. As a matter of fact, when you look at the SLC Trans Gun Club, the leader of that is an Iranian trans person that was definitely pushing a lot of violent rhetoric, to say the least. Now, they are reporting that is being investigated. There's multiple reports on that. Look, I got a different take on the war, and I got a different take on Joe Kent personally. But look, I want all of this stuff investigated. What I don't like is this idea that people are intentionally, in my perspective, intentionally trying to say that Tyler Robinson didn't do this. I think there's so much overwhelming evidence that says that Tyler Robinson is the killer. Outside of that, I agree with a lot of people. Like, I think Lance Twiggs was involved for sure. I think we definitely need to look into the different ties to trans activists in the area. We have social media posts that are actually going and predicting Charlie's death. That hasn't been looked into. At least it may be being looked into by the FBI. I don't know, or Utah. But what I can tell you is, what I see time and time again, this is something that we've all talked about going back to December, is that there does seem to be a psyop. Is like, hey, don't pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to Egyptian planes, to Mitch Snow, to this plan down in Fort Huachuca, and none of that makes sense to me. And we've debunked a lot of those things, but like the idea to me that Lance, Tyler Robinson didn't take the shot. I think that's hard for me to reconcile. I am curious, just off the top of your head, Nate. You said that you felt this was a sophisticated conspiracy, and what I can't reconcile with that is, like, okay, we have this very sophisticated conspiracy. Let's say the U.S. military, Israel's involved, the French Foreign Legion, whoever's involved, and they plan this down to a T. And it's so sophisticated and so successful that they get away, that they pull off the hit. They get away. And like the one thing that they screw up is, we shot him with or whatever. We shot him with a different caliber, but we pinned the patsy with a 30-06. That's the thing that I can't reconcile and doesn't make sense to me. I just don't think that even if you and I were planning this operation, like, we wouldn't miss that detail. That's kind of a doozy.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, but as for this high-level sophisticated, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there's professional involvement. Professional involvement could be one Mossad operative. One Mossad operative that runs this and helps Tyler Robinson and Lance Twiggs set all this up. And again, I'm not staking my claim that there is a second shooter. My thing is, again, the 30-06 doesn't make sense. Could you say, and I've never seen Tyler Robinson with the 30-06, not going to the roof, not leaving, right? So, if you could it be Tyler Robinson plants that gun? Is he super sophisticated? He plants that gun somewhere else and uses a collapsed AR-15 in his backpack that we saw him go to the roof with, takes a shot there. Sure, I don't know. I don't have all the answers to that. But as for that, this has to be some super sophisticated thing. First of all, Tyler Robinson got away. So for us to pretend like from the scene, for us to, and that is not necessarily the easiest thing ever to do. Clean infill, clean exfil, takes the shot, kills the killer, gets out. And the only reason he gets caught is, because the family friend, Boy Scout leader, fellow sheriff recognizes him in a picture and convinces Tyler Robinson to turn himself in. And so that's later. So yeah, it is a little bit sophisticated to pull off an assassination like this.
I would disagree with that. That's not actually what happened, according to the charging documents. According to the only person
according to Sheriff Nate Broxby, who, by the way, Gary, I'm sure you're aware, just resigned from his position about 2 hours after this news story.
I was about to say, what's that resignation all about? That looks really bad.
Hold on. You can go back and pull up Nate Broxby literally saying on film in a press conference, debunking Tyler Robinson's family from turning himself in and saying, my personal friend who used to be a sheriff for 20 years was the one who used to be Tyler Robinson's Boy Scout leader, recognized him from the picture. He's the one that contacted the family. He's the one that went over to Tyler Robinson's house and convinced Tyler Robinson to turn himself in. The sheriff said that. The same sheriff, Sheriff Nate Brooksby, who was in charge of this whole thing, who has now just resigned yesterday.
Well, they're going to have a real problem when they get the parents on the stand if that's the case, because I'm just going to.
He said that in a press conference, Gary. That was the sheriff. That's from the sheriff's department.
What I'm saying is that what we have in the charging documents is that Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him
right, but the charging documents were put out before this press conference.
Okay,
charging documents were put out like what, 6 days after?
I mean, both things can be true. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, both things. But I'm saying that sheriff said that's not that his parents did not turn him in. It was this sheriff's personal friend who was a sheriff for 20 years. I forget his name. Who was the one that recognized him from being Tyler Robinson's Boy Scout leader. And he's the one that contacted the family. He's the one that went over and convinced Tyler Robinson, it's better for you to turn yourself in than for them to come raid your house and potentially fucking kill you. That's what that sheriff said.
That's absolutely, and that portion is stated in the charging documents. What I'm saying is that two things can absolutely be true. I do think that he helped with coordinating him being turned in. I think all that's true, but I reject the idea that his parents didn't recognize him. I reject the idea.
What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts real quick? Because I mean, you got to be able to explain this. Why would the head sheriff on part of the investigation resign about 2 hours after the report came out that the ballistics don't match the ATF? That's too. I have no idea. What, the coincidence on that?
I have no idea. He may have a completely logical explanation. What I'm not going to do is take a void of information and just fill it with whatever I want to. I mean,
I get it. Like to hear. I'm just saying you can't tell me that's not bizarre.
It is bizarre. A lot of things about this have been bizarre.
Yeah, well, that's fair. That's true.
Like a 30-06 not shooting through somebody's neck.
I mean, look, it is. Look, I think there's some very good plausible explanations for that, and we're going to find out. I think we're going to find out when. To me, this is resting on. All the things being alleged are essentially going to be answered once we get the parents on the stand, as far as I'm concerned, because they're going to confirm or deny.
Okay, we'll see. Let's shift gears. How we have left. It's been an amazing interview. Only like 30 minutes left. Both of you, Gary Taggart or Nate Taggart here, what do you make of Trump and Iran? And we've had victory. Oh, they're making a deal. They're not. Just constant, stories changing. No missiles are hitting Israel. Tons are getting through. They arrested thousands of journalists in the Middle East reporting on it. What do you guys as war fighters think of this situation?
You want me to go first, Gary? Me personally, I'm just super ideologically against any more wars for American blood for sand and oil. Period. Just full stop. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to convince me that we need to be spending hundreds of billions of dollars and spending U.S. service members' lives for this war in Iran. You're not going to convince me of that, and you're not going to convince the majority of the American people of that. The other thing, and I think this is just in my personal opinion, I'm not going to get into, people are talking about who's winning. The United States winning? Is Iran winning? Who's winning? To me, everybody's losing. And the world's losing, Iran's losing, the United States is losing. And so to me, I just want us the fuck out of the conflict. I don't care if it means Donald Trump just comes out, declares victory, leaves, we leave. If we do that, I think it's going to be a huge problem now with the Strait of Hormuz, because Iran most likely is just going to have full control over the strait now. And if you didn't know, they're charging $2 million per oil tanker to get through the strait right now. If you don't know what that's going to equate to year over year, it's $80 billion in new revenue to Iran that they didn't have beforehand. And if you don't know about Iran's national defense budget is only $10 billion. So we're about to just 8x their defense budget for new money. And then also the global oil prices, global oil commodities aren't coming back down if we just leave. So we're in a rock and a hard place.
And Trump says he may just leave it to the Middle East to fix.
In which they're not going to be able to fix. All they're going to do is this is just going to drive everybody to BRICS. If you think about all our Asian allies, this is another thing that pisses me off. All our Asian allies, this isn't affecting us nearly as much as it is Australia. And I was in first group. Gary was in first group. I mean, this is fucking our allies in Philippines and Australia and Korea and Japan. And it's not China, right? Because China's still free-flowing the oil. I mean, we already have the Philippines just announced that they're going into massive restrictions, lockdowns on oil. Australia is announcing that as well. So we're screwing the entire world. We're screwing all of our allies. And for me, again, I think this is an everybody is losing. So let's figure it out and get the hell out of this thing. Because to me, there's no
BlackRock's winning because they want a world. They want a world depression.
Right. There is some winners, but it's not the American people, and it's not the average people around the world. I can tell you that.
It's like COVID. The globalists doubled their money while we lost 60% of our assets. Your take on that, Gary?
Yeah, look, I support the war as long as it's going to be executed correctly. I think we've kicked this can way too far down the road. I think this is a responsible approach to what's going on. We're going to see how it turns out. What I am against, just like Nate and everybody else, is some unending war where it's going to be an occupation. We're not going to see that. I don't think we're going to see that. But the idea that we can just continue to let Iran be the #1 state sponsored of terror all over the world and allow them to become armed with nuclear weapons. I mean, we already see that they actually had a much more advanced intermediate ballistic missiles than they admitted to and that we even knew about. So there was an information gap, an intelligence gap that was huge in that.
No, I know they're way more advanced than they were telling, but let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
What about the overall issue of the strait being closed kills the recovery with an inflation? That's mathematics. That's a guarantee. And then the globalists get what they want by that failure. So we have to think about economic warfare here.
Sure, and we cannot allow Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz, and I don't think we're going to see that. Like, again, we already have allies coming on to help control that. We've already talked to Trump administration's talked to Japan, he's talked to the French, multiple allies that says they're going to continue to help actually control the Strait of Hormuz. Now,
whoa. They have not agreed to that. In fact, not only that, France and Spain just came out and said that they're actually going to put restrictions on allowing U.S. to use any of their land for anything militarily. That was yesterday.
I'm sorry, you cut out. Who did you say?
France and Spain both.
Taking our military completely out. That's why Trump's trying to leave NATO.
They're not coming to help.
Yeah, we're gonna have additional support. There's no doubt about it.
And what is that additional support's going to do? The United States Navy is the the most powerful Navy in the world, and we can't do anything. How are you going to stop Iran's drones from hitting oil tankers?
You don't think that we're going to be able to control the Strait of Hormuz with our Navy?
We can't do it right now.
Yes, we can. I mean, it's not going to stop them from attacking, and we're not going to have some sort of non-issue.
There's no Western oil tankers flowing out of the Strait of Hormuz, bro. None.
What's that?
Still. That's why you can go down to the local gas station, look up, and see that gas is $5 to $8 a gallon.
No. There are oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz right now. It is.
Well, China and Russia and Iran and India, when they're paying for it in Chinese yuan and paying a $2 million toll per oil tanker there is.
No, that's factually wrong.
Well, then why is gas nationally almost $5 a gallon, Gary?
We're at $100 a barrel right now. We were at $140 a barrel under Biden. We were having higher gas prices.
We're not talking about Joe Biden. We're still early into the war. Oil can still go much higher. It's almost double.
This whole thing could go to hell. I mean, we could look at the worst case scenario every single time, and we can always go.
It's headed that way.
What's that?
So what's your end state here? What's the strategic? Here's another thing. I'm a little bit confused because you said Iran is the world's leader in state-sponsored terrorism. Since when is Shia Islam? Since when is Shia Islam carried out the majority of terrorist attacks in the world? Because we both know it's Sunni Islam.
What are you talking about? Hezbollah, we got Hamas. Those are all Iranian proxies. What do you even mean? And we had all throughout the Iraq.
How is that? Has that the world's leader in state-sponsored ISIS has carried out, and Al Qaeda have carried out infinitely more terrorist attacks than Iran?
Like the IRGC is designated as a terrorist organization. We know that
by the United States, just like all the rest are. My point is, since this is like Fox News talking points, right? Like, ooh, Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear weapon for 47 years. They're the biggest threat ever. It's like, yeah, okay, all right, like, but they're not an any bigger threat than anybody else. And I'll also say this, you see this all the time. It's like, well, we got to take care of this problem. Okay, Al-Jilani is the leader of Syria right now and is a welcome guest in the White House. Why are we pretending like things in the past through terrorists are now, we have to invade your country for it?
We're not invading the country.
Doesn't that kind of just throw the whole argument out the window when Donald Trump's bringing Al-Jilani into the White House as an honored guest?
We have strikes.
Let's be clear. You guys can't debate, Gary, Nate. There's no debate. They tried to sell ground invasion the last 2 weeks. Like that's insane. It's been going on.
I agree with that.
Well, let me ask you guys this question. How do we even know the 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium is anywhere? I know we can track some of it. The idea, I've talked to a lot of former current people, they're saying, yeah, it's super risky, but we're willing to do it if they tell us to. How insane is it to try to claim you're going to send special ops in with technicians to try to get stuff with forklifts out of these bases? What do you make of that?
Well, I mean,
in the middle of Iran, I make that everybody's going to die if they try that.
Now, first of all, our capabilities are much better than that, Nate. You know that as well as I do. Like,
yeah, we can't support. I get it, but it's still.
I'm not even saying that I support it. I'm not even saying I support it. But what I'm saying is we can't do that safely.
Gary, I'm sure you know what it takes. I mean, we do training for this and trying to infiltrate underground bunkers. It's one of the most dangerous things that you can do in special operations. And now you're going to do it in Iran.
This dangerous?
In the center of Iran?
Well, it's not in the center of Iran. It's up by Fordo, as far as I understand, where they actually have the.
Yeah, and they know where it is.
The media has told them where you're coming. The media is also, they know where you're coming.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of these arguments were made about Venezuela as well. Like, we can't go do that.
Venezuela is not Iran. You trying to pretend that Iran's military and Venezuela's military are the same.
We know they paid off most everybody but the Cubans they had to kill. I mean, I agree that was an incredible operation, but that's a cakewalk compared to going to deep underground bases.
Yeah. Just
and you don't think we can, and you don't think that we can pay off most of the Iranians? You don't think that we have intelligence networks that are actually making deals right now? And again, this is like a little bit of extremely.
No. Listen, if you've got the intelligence network, then throw the goddamn government over.
I'm with you. I think that's exactly what they should do. But again, what we're saying is
Venezuela, and I hope Cuba. I would support Venezuela because I could study it. This is a whole different. Venezuela is like eating a pig versus an elephant. It's a whole different ball of wax.
I don't disagree that it is
here. What's the strategic victory for the United States here?
That Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. Like that is whatever happens beyond that, they cannot have nuclear weapons.
We already destroyed all their nuclear weapons 6 months ago.
Yeah, they said in June, Midnight Hammer was done.
Obliterated everything.
And they're continuing to develop nuclear weapons.
So we have to do this so Gary, you're saying we have to do this every 9 months for perpetuity forever now.
What I'm saying is exactly like if you're gonna have peace through strength, sometimes you got to drop some bombs. What I am confused about is like, are we just going to just completely draw in and just not address any of the world issues?
Well, I don't think anybody thinks we're drawing in under Trump. I'm concerned we're overextending.
Like,
yeah, why do we need to be fighting this war in Iran? Nobody's been able to correctly, other than your typical Fox News. They can't have nukes. They're the world's leader in state-sponsored terrorism. They've been trying to kill Americans for 47 years. Yada yada yada. Got it. Okay, that's not actually what we think.
If we're going to characterize that, then you're actually going with the MSN Now talking points. Like, we can't do anything. Trump can't do anything. Like, it's just going to be the worst thing.
So here's the thing. Here's the big misconception we're having. So Gary thinks a conventional war is going to work in Iran while Iran is leveraging asymmetric warfare against us. Okay? As a Green Beret, you know what they're doing.
Yeah, Trump thinks blowing up targets does something. Not when they have a straight Hormuz.
Hold on. Yeah. The idea, let me get this. The idea that you're going to bomb Shia Islam into submission, the same people culturally who are willing to strap suicide vests and jump in a vehicle-borne IED and blow themselves up and kill them, you're going to bomb them into submission, a culture that believes heavily in martyrdom after you slaughtered the Ayatollah, killed 200 little elementary school girls.
You guys are welcome to come back tomorrow on Harrison. This is amazing. But I want to give Gary Melton closing comments, and Harrison Smith takes over. Go ahead, Gary.
I mean, the idea that we're going to rely completely on conventional warfare and that we're not going to use asymmetrical warfare at all is crazy to me. That's not what's being discussed. Hold on. That's not what's being discussed at DOD, and we don't know what asymmetrical warfare that we're conducting. We have plans.
Iran's asymmetric warfare they're conducting against us.
Well, if the payoffs work, they should already work. Go ahead, finish up. Closing comment. Let him have
I'm just saying, look, at the end of the day, one of the things that I supported Trump on it, and something like 90% plus of MAGA and Trump voters are still supporting this war. And the reason is because Trump ran on the fact that Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. He's been saying it for the last 40 years. I agree with that. I think us investing in taking Iran out now ensures that we don't have a forever war with a nuclear-armed Iran in 10 years.
Oh, no, I agree. We could take them out. That shuts down Russia and China, but I don't think it's going to work. Gentlemen, both, thank you so much. Valhalla VFT, you got Paramount Tactical. Thank you so much. Harrison Smith takes over. Guys, come back on tomorrow. This is honored to shit. We love you. We appreciate a real debate. Ladies and gentlemen,